Okay, hello everyone. Hey, welcome to Tauke Talks. So, Tauke Talk is a sharing session where small but crucial businesses owners share about their journey and their motivation in creating their business and sustaining their business. So, my name is Cindy, and I'll be your host today. This sharing session is brought to you by RYSE, which is a program that equips young people with entrepreneurial and businesses skill and knowledge to start their own small business. And RYSE is supported by Citi Foundation. We here at RYSE believe that entrepreneurship is not only for the big startups with high technology, but also for the small and mighty businesses like Little Collins. During hard times like the MCO, we want to showcase the stories of these small businesses that are persevering and chasing their dreams despite the circumstances. So today I'm happy to welcome our guest for the day, Francis from Little Collins. Welcome. So welcome. Welcome to Tauke Talks. We're honored to have you here today. So before we start, can you briefly tell us a bit about your business?
Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Francis, and my business is called Little Collins Cakery and Cafe. We're a small little cafe in Solaris Mont Kiara, which is on the edge of KL and PJ. So we've been here for about 11 years already in this location. And we started out as a florist, as a bakery, and finally we became a full cakery. That means we just sell cakes and have a small cafe on the side about maybe 5 to 6 years ago. And then we do designer cakes and ready-made designer cakes that are accessible. We sell online as well as having a retail store. So people can just order online, or if they need to come to us for a customized cake, they can just walk into the shop and book an appointment to discuss. Yeah, so we supply cakes for like events, things like that.
Okay. Francis, can you tell us a bit about what inspired you to start your business? Did you study culinary or pastry, or was it a form of your dream since you were little to start your own bakery and cakery?
Okay, so I'm actually a graphic design student. I studied in Melbourne, and I did arts and design. Then when I was about, I think 19, I came back to KL to work. I worked in an advertising firm for about 4.5 years. I was a junior art director. And then it was actually because of a crisis at that time, I think because of the economy as well. So the company had to retrench people. So they retrenched me. And then they gave a package and all that. So then my parents encouraged me to start doing something on my own instead of working in a company. So with the family support, I actually started a flower shop first. And I did not have any intention actually to own my own business, so it was more my parents encouraging me and then the family supporting. And then so with my background in design and advertising, so I used whatever knowledge, experience I had just to start a business doing flowers. Then a few years after that, my dad decided maybe we should start a bakery, and then it went on from there. So my whole family, right, none of us bake. We don't actually know how to bake. We know how to eat, but we don't know how to bake. So I learned everything from scratch, learning on my own. So yeah, it was a journey that was like, it just kept changing and then evolving until today.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, but I think it was
okay.
Because my parents are very entrepreneurial. My family on my dad's side are quite there's quite a few of them. My dad himself is a businessman, so I think they just encouraged me to just start something. Didn't matter what it was. They just said, you can just do something. Yeah. So because of that, they pushed me out of my comfort zone.
I see. You guys also started a workshop, right, to help people learn more about.
Yeah. So we started Collins Kitchen Lab upstairs from the bakery. It was in last November, and we used the space to encourage people to learn how to to make things from scratch, not only cakes, but we also encourage like cooking skills, and we want to try eventually to branch out to like arts and crafts and things like that. But it's a space that people can come and learn, and we keep it small so that it's quite personal. Yeah.
Oh, because you mentioned about how you never seen yourself as a business owner or like an entrepreneur, but like at this point, like when you finally took the step, how do you feel about it? Like, were you like scared of taking the first
Oh,
step,
yeah.
or now at this point being successful, do you feel like it was a good choice for you at that time?
I think first of all is that I have always been very entrepreneurial, even when I was young. I remember like I would sell things to my brother.
Okay.
My younger brother is traumatized.
Alright.
So I've always like, even in school also, I will sell anything, whatever you want. I can draw something for you and just sell it to you. So I think it's always been in something in me, and that's something my dad had, my father himself kind of like gave me the space to explore, because I think he also wanted to know what I was capable of. So like he would always tell me, I'll just throw you in the deep end and then let's see what happens. So basically, so like you mentioned about passion, do I have a passion for baking? Like I mentioned, it's not something that comes naturally to me, but I am naturally a very creative person. So I use the creativity in the recent years to do a lot more in building the brand and using it to design cakes. So I'm more a designer, more of a creative person rather than someone who's in the kitchen baking. So I found that this was something that I was not only something that I enjoy, and then I saw the fruit of it, but it's not easy. But then yeah, in the sense I kind of enjoy that aspect of it. And so now I use like little knowledge that I have and learn from other people. I find it very interesting to study how brands are built, companies are built. So yeah, so it's not just about the baking the cakes. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you created the name Little Collins? Like, does it have a significance to you, or was it
Oh
like as
yeah.
a creative name?
Yeah. So when we first started in Solaris, we had to combine the flower shop at that time with the bakery plus a cafe, and I needed a generic name. So at that time, there was a lot of like bakeries that were named after flowers, named after some French word, and then like people calling the bakery, which is fine, but it was just not something that connected with me. So I began to go back to my study days in Melbourne. And so Little Collins, right, is actually a street in Melbourne.
Ah, okay.
There is Collins Street in the city center, and then there's Little Collins Street. So Little Collins is basically the lorong that is behind Collins Street. So Little Collins in Melbourne is actually a shopping, like a shopping street. It's like they don't allow cars inside, and you have a lot of quirky little shops and very
Ah,
interesting cafes. Yeah, so because of that, I decided to name it Little Collins.
a piece of Melbourne with you all throughout your
Yeah.
journey as an entrepreneur. Okay, interesting. Okay, so Collins, Francis, can you share a bit about the challenges that you faced when you first started? I mean, like,
Yep.
was it like, let's say, financial or branding, or maybe getting customers, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Okay, so the first thing is I was working alone in that sense because none of my family knew how to bake, like I said. So it was very tough because I didn't have any business knowledge. At that time, there's no access to much of the internet because
Right.
I
Okay.
started when it was like maybe 15, 17 years ago. So in those days, you didn't have Instagram, and you don't have
Right.
any connections like yourself. Like RYSE doesn't exist in those days. There was no
Mm-hmm.
short course that I can take, or like how to run a business or how to build a brand. It was not as accessible. So myself, because of the inexperience, it was really difficult. I had to learn along the way, make a lot of mistakes, and learn from the mistakes. So in terms of getting the customers, because we just straight up open a retail store, and in the area that we're in those days, they didn't have a bakery that were like us, a little home bakery that will make fresh breads and things like that at that time. So location was very important, right? So gaining the customer was not super difficult. It was just that you had to build your reputation. Getting the customer is not a problem. Yeah, it's building your reputation, making them trust you and trust that you can do it more than once, and then they will keep coming back, right? So then in terms of the branding, like I said, because of inexperience, I didn't know how to do it. So even now I'm still learning. And then with Instagram, it helps a lot. With Facebook, it helps a lot. So social media comes a lot. In those days, we didn't have that, so for me to communicate with you, right, it's like all the way you are in somewhere in Klang. I can't send you a flyer, it's going to cost me too much money. So social media now, it at least helps, yeah, a lot. So one of the challenges was that I had to hire chefs to do the cakes. And we got to the point where people came to ask for designer cakes. At that time, they just started asking for fondant cakes. And none of my chefs were equipped to do it. They were not trained to do it. So I was very frustrated as a creative person. I didn't have any way, I know what I want the design to look like, but all the chefs couldn't do it. So I got fed up, and then I just went for class and started learning on my own. So that's how I got started into it. Yeah, it was actually because of necessity, and I had no other choice. So yeah, that was one of the big challenges, was that I didn't know my business. I was not the one who was doing it. So now I'm the one doing it. At least, I'm the one who will update my own skills and then later train the staff to do it. Yeah.
Okay, I
So I
see.
hope
Interesting. Hard transition for you when you first started, let's say, moving towards more of like an online like platforms. Like, was it hard for you to introduce Little Collins on Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth?
Okay, so when we talk about online, there is social media, and then there is the World Wide Web. So social media, in a sense, it was difficult mainly because I myself am not a person who walks around taking selfies of myself. I'm not, yeah. So I had to learn from my niece, right? So it took her 3 hours to explain to me what is Instagram. So she told me, Auntie, you better bring your paper and pen. So I was like, okay. So she explained to me, and then she was like, you need to change your phone, all right? You need to upgrade. And so I did all the necessary things. So with Instagram, like we talk about social media first, getting the presence on there was not easy, mainly because at that time when I first started, like everyone, it's like our photos need to improve, content needs to be there. So there were many different aspects of building social media rather than just posting a nice photo. There's a lot that goes into it. So I learned a lot, which I find very interesting and challenging at the same time. Then when we go to World Wide Web, we decided to sell our cakes online. That means I wanted a seamless online shop. That means with your card, with your bank details, you can just click without speaking to anybody. You just buy a product from us, and then we will deliver it to you. So that one also was another level of challenges because it was a different way to connect to people. And we needed to learn how to do like even improve our website. Like you said, it's very interactive now, but at the beginning it was quite choppy. So I had to push my designer team. You've got to make it as seamless and as fun as possible, as easy as possible. I want it so that like the auntie down the road, right, she must be able to know how to do it. the ASO, there must not be a tutorial. It has to be so,
Yeah.
so easy that anybody be able to buy a cake. And then, so then online presence, in the sense that with the World Wide Web, was also not simple as just straightforward as just building a website. You need to know how to use Google Ads. You need to know how to use Google Words, all sorts of, I think they call it like SEO. And so for me, learning all these things was very interesting and challenging at the same time. So with the World Wide Web, right, it took us at least about maybe a year or so to really see customers coming in and then regular customers buying cakes. But during the MCO, we were super busy because our website was there. It was at a time where people couldn't come to the store, so they were forced to go onto the internet, and they were not allowed to drive out. And so we delivered cakes, which was something that we had already done for the past 4 years. So during this MCO, then I finally saw that what we had input into it was finally to see the fruit of it. Yeah.
From your experience being like, I would like to say like a veteran in entrepreneurship, with the amount of years that you have put into
made me
this
sound
business.
so old.
No, veteran as in like skillful, wise in the business, not old. Okay, so what is the one skills that, like, what was the one skill that you wish you had when you first started off your business? You can go back and tell yourself that you should have done this differently, or like I should have had these skills.
A lot. I think I would have told myself, yeah. I think one of the main
prominent skill,
one prominent skill, I think I would have told myself, you needed to learn how to actually run a business, like from the financial part, costings, and then managing profit loss, things like that, projecting your business plans for the year ahead, even 5 years ahead. Yeah, all those things I didn't know. So it was like you just do it day by day, which was not good.
Understand? Okay. Thank you so much. In this time of like you mentioned earlier that it was quite okay because you had your website that people were ordering in. But were there any challenges that you faced during the MCO period? Could it be like because your staff couldn't get to your shop, or the lack of manpower, the restriction, or people were a bit more scared to order cakes online? Could you share a bit about that?
Okay. So challenge number one was that the staff couldn't come in. So for the first 2 weeks of MCO, I sent my staff on leave. So they wouldn't come into the store. And then because at that time I thought, well, nobody is going to buy cakes, right, during MCO. But I was wrong. I was like making 20 over cakes by myself, mainly because, so the orders kept coming in and I was like so tired. So that was challenge number one. Also, like I said, because of our own online store, but we are also featured on Cake Together and Eat Cake Today, which is like a platform like Grab. They feature cakes only, and then they will actually do the logistics. So that means I have about three online platforms, right? And they were all open at that time. So one challenge was, the staff couldn't come in, and then I had to handle it on my own. And then making sure that customers, but I also had to communicate to my customer that things are going to be limited. I'm not going to be able to do like what 5 people can do. So on social media, I had to, first of all, indicate that I was open. Then second of all, I had to indicate that there were safety measures. And these are the SOPs that the company will follow. So to ensure that the customer feels safe when they receive the cake from us. So I had to make sure that I myself, when I come in, I sanitize, I constantly wash my hands, do all the complete SOPs. Then after when my staff were allowed to come in, some of them couldn't come to work because of roadblocks. So
Mm.
that posed a challenge, but we took it one step at a time. So what I did was I won't serve my full menu. I just serve a
Mm.
portion of it and then just do what we could handle. Then
Mm.
after that, the orders kept coming more and more. And then finally, we issued letters for our staff to be able to travel on the road so that the police understands that we are part of an essential business. So
Mm.
when the staff came back, we also had to ensure that each staff has to keep distance and then wear your mask, do the sanitization, you know. So it was like challenging because the rules kept changing every week.
Mm. Yeah.
One
Okay.
SOP after another. And then like this week, we are already preparing for a new SOP when our dine-in is going to be open.
Mm.
Right now, we are not open for anybody to walk in. So when we finally could get drivers to come, when we finally, like this was maybe a month ago lah. So when there were more and more drivers, and then we had to make sure that the drivers don't get too near our staff when they pick up the cakes. So we tried like, you know, we put the table here, then we put it here, then we put it outside, then we put it here. So we just test run everything and just kind of like go with the flow. So this week we are going to try to another SOP that customers when they come in and dine in, how we're going to keep them safe and how we're going to keep our staff safe. So nowadays there are things like QR ordering. So we're trying to set that one up. So there's quite a lot of where the technology is going to help us get through it. Yeah. So these were the challenges, but it was definitely super busy until I never imagined it was going to get that this way.
Was it only busy for your cake or was it also for your cafe?
Oh, okay. So it has become evident that Little Collins obviously is known for cakes, which is
Mm.
the business plan that I had 5 years ago. Lah. It's that I want to be able to build a brand that is known for cakes. So because of the MCO, the food sales, that means the F&B sales has dropped tremendously. It's like, because
Mm.
at that time, our website right now, you don't see that you can buy food from our
Yeah.
website, right?
Mm.
It's difficult because it's an on-demand thing. So the cafe side actually serves the office area around us. So people
Mm.
who pass, they live nearby, they can come and have food and drinks. We were never going to actually expand the food so that it would serve outside of our area.
I
So
see.
because of that, this has, in a sense, is going to change our business model a bit. So what we're gonna wait until June when we open
Mm.
back, and we will monitor what will happen, whether or not the how we're going to treat the F&B side, and whether people are
Mm.
come and eat, you know,
Mm.
or would they rather sit outside like bistro style. So we will have to see how it goes.
Mm. Understandable. Yeah, Francis, because you started at a very early age, right, in terms of starting your business, would you like encourage youngsters nowadays to open their own business?
Right. Okay, so I started when I was 25. At that time, I had already had 4.5 years working in a corporate business, in a corporate company. So I think when it comes to starting business, I don't think that there is an age limit. I think it
Mm.
really is why you are starting. If you want to do it because you want to earn money, then you really need to calculate how much this business and project, how much is really going to really bring in for you, what is sufficient for you, because it does depend on your commitments. So like
Mm.
myself, you know, if I'm married or not married, it makes a lot of difference. At the, you know, so at the time, it's like I have no other relationships. I was, you know, I had the freedom and my parents encouraging me. So it really depends what their commitments are, what the motivation is,
Mm.
why they're starting the business. And it when we say business, right, it's like buy and sell. If you
Mm.
want to build a brand, is different. Yeah. So if you want to start a business, you know, you want to earn pocket money, then do it so that it can suit your lifestyle. If you want to leave your job because for whatever reason, then you need to make sure that whatever you're getting yourself into will be able to cover uh, your you know, what would have been your salary, what would have been your commitment costs and things like that. So I think that yeah, so one of the things my dad had encouraged me, why he encouraged me to leave and go into business, was because he said that in the corporate world, up to a certain age, obviously you will what he would call you are no longer an asset, you are a liability. So he said, girl, you better think far. I was like, what? How far? Because at that time I was 20 something. I was like, how far you want me to think? So yeah, and then because I can only say for myself in the F&B business, it's not for everybody. It requires a lot of diligence, dedication. You need to be really determined, but you also need to be very patient because it takes time to build something. Yeah. So like I said, if you just want money, you know, you just want to earn pocket money, if it's just about the financial part, then it's a different plan that you must have. So I think it just depends.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So now we have ended the first part of the session, and now we'll be going through the questions and that the participant has given us. Okay, so the first question is, versus how do you deal with the changing demand in RMO, and how does it affect the freshness of your supply and business?
Okay, so the first part about the changing demand. So basically, because the MCO has changed the whole economic landscape of the whole world. So which means that people will value their life differently, their time differently. So at that time, when MCO first hit, because it was such a shock to everybody, right? It's not as if you had a year to plan it. So what had happened was I observed other businesses, what were their responses. I had also joined an F&B crisis group on Telegram, so that the business owners were like throwing out ideas, what should we do, this and that. But basically what I found was this: we made use of what we had. You know, I didn't come up with any new products. What we had was, we had mini 5-inch cakes that were enough for like 4 to 6 people. So these mini cakes have always been on our menu. It's always been something that we were able to serve our customers, because not many bakeries have like tiny cakes, right? And so at that time, it was just, how could we solve the problem for our customers? You know, they need a cake, but they don't need a big cake. So the 5-inch cakes were perfect. And then plus we were able to meet the demand to deliver, which, like I said, we had already had experience of logistics. Then after that, I began to just watch the trend to see how people were eating differently. I don't know if you notice on Instagram, this week like could have a spike in tiramisus, and then next week, right, everybody is crazy about like Lotus Biscoff cakes. And then another week it was all about burnt cheesecakes. So you watch the trend, and then you kind of like see what you have that can jump in with it. So we also came up with like combo slice boxes because people needed to eat cake, and Malaysians never stop eating, which was an obvious lesson that I have learned. So
True.
we just came up with like different products that were easily transportable. That means we could transport it by motorbike, which was cheaper. Then it would save everybody cost. So for even like for Hari Raya, Mother's Day, we did combo boxes that had a variety of things. So basically it's watching the trend, seeing what people are, what they really need. And then it's all behavioral pattern, you know, in that sense. Yeah, there's a pattern to it, one. Then in the other question about how it affects the freshness. So because we are now shut to dine in, we don't have a full range of cakes on display. So what we do is a made to order system. That means you order it and then I'll make it. So then I assure that my wastage is cut down to super, super low, right? Because it's the
Mm,
wastages that can be very high if you just keep your display full and then there's like nobody buying it. So because
yeah.
of the online store, it helps a lot. That means you just order it, then only I make it.
Mm, I see. Okay. The next question is, what is one piece of advice you would give to aspiring bakers out there?
Aspiring bakers.
Mm,
Oh, okay. I think the question is based on aspiring bakers, how they're going to. I'm gonna say from the viewpoint of how the baking industry is going to change in the days ahead, or how you're going to be
mm,
able to survive. One of the things is that obviously you must have online presence. That is quite obvious now. That without an
mm,
online presence, it's going to be super, super difficult for you to reach to your customers and for you to
mm,
stand out in that sense. So for aspiring bakers is take time to build your brand online. That means you find out, because like for us, we don't boost a lot of ads on Facebook, mainly because
mm,
we found that it will work for certain items and not work for certain items. So you need to know your target audience, know the tools that are out there, how to use them well.
mm,
Instagram boosting is not automatic, you will get customers. So you
mm,
need to understand your audience and then find out how best to reach them. And if possible, and like I learned recently, the best way is actually your customer base. Reach out to them and then build that brand loyalty so that they will trust you and keep coming back, and they themselves will promote the brand for you.
mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. The next question would be, because you mentioned earlier that when you first started, you had to hire a lot of bakers, right? And
Yeah.
then you were quite frustrated with the fact that they didn't know how to use fondant. But being someone who didn't have much experience in baking, how was your experience like managing a group of bakers that already have like a certificate in baking? Was it hard for you as like a new business owner, as someone who didn't know anything about baking,
Yeah. Yeah.
hiring people who are experienced?
Yeah. So basically, when we come to building a team, right, you are only as good as your team allows you to be. So
Mm,
obviously, myself not knowing how to do it was very frustrating, super, super
mm,
frustrating, because it limits what you can sell to your customers. It limits your customer base. So in
mm,
terms of like bakers who had um, not the skill sets that I needed at the time. Yeah, it was really frustrating, and I think it was frustrating for them as well.
mm. Did you ever meet a situation where your bakers, like for example, when you want to try to give them instruction, it was hard for you like to establish a respect because you didn't have experience in the field?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm,
I think not so much respect, but it's more like they're not able to help me, because
uh,
they themselves also don't know what to do. So if you ask
mm,
them to, basically, I think is that we have to understand that when we hire an employee, um,
mm,
yes, they are there to help us and to solve problems, but they are not going to be able to solve everything. So
mm,
the owner themselves have to, in a sense, train, and then you have to empower them to be able to use their skill in a proper manner. So even when I do marketing and all that, right, I found that even though I
mm,
hire a Facebook manager, she's not going to be the magic pill that will cause my Facebook to go viral. I had to give her
mm.
the direction. I have to communicate my vision properly, and have to execute it well, communicate well. So all these things come into play.
Mm, okay. Thank you so much, Francis, for your insight. I
Yeah.
really learned a lot from your course, and I hope everybody else also learned a lot from your session. So that was Francis, everyone, from Little Collins, sharing about her experience at Tauke Talks, brought to you by RYSE and supported by Citi Foundation. And what really motivated Francis was obviously her father and her parents in wanting her to start her own business. And despite her circumstances, despite the economy, she really persevered through. And I really learned a lot about your motivation, your determination in this industry is really, really something that I will salute you for. And I hope all of you feel inspired and motivated as well by Francis and work hard and achieve your goals. So if your goal is to start a small business or to really learn about the entrepreneurship industry, or you're just interested about gaining new skills to help you in the future to be more employable, you can follow us on our Facebook page, RYSE, because we have an upcoming online course called RYSE Online. So it's our latest entrepreneurship training program that will equip you with the skills and every single step on how do you create your business and how do you start and take the first step into entrepreneurship. So, and don't forget to also sign up for our next Tauke Talk session, which will be with Shuhada from Ratu Kitchen. So Shuhada, she is an entrepreneur that started a business in also food and beverages. So she specializes in creating comfort food such as like, biscuits, and like she also even sell Malaysian comfort food such as sambal and all the kind of sort. So if you're interested, don't forget to sign up for her Tauke Talk session on the 1st of June. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in this Tauke Talk session. And thank you so much, Francis, for your time and your wisdom, and all the best to your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.